Social media yesterday was ablaze, saying that an F-15E Strike Eagle, an additional one, this one had been shot down inside Iran. However, CENTCOM has said that is a lie that has been debunked. We do know that 3 Strike Eagles were taken down by a Kuwaiti F-18 earlier this week. They do fly a mixed fleet of Legacy and Super Hornets. We'll look at that air picture and how that might have transpired. Additionally, General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has said that air superiority over Iran's southern flank has been established. We'll look at what that actually means, what corridors have been burned open, why we might now see that massive surge of F-16 Wild Weasels, and how they play a role as we expect to see this potentially escalate. And we now know that deeper targets inside Iran are going to be struck at a higher volume. Iran's Navy has been systematically dismantled. Corvettes, a drone carrier, a submarine, and we now have the first U.S. torpedo kill since World War II. The Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed with oil prices spiking. Turkey and Azerbaijan have also now been hit and appear to be getting drawn closer into this conflict. Welcome in. I'm John Waters. I am in Asia right now, not in the studio, trying to provide this update. If you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss any future updates. And we do have a newsletter if you're interested in this type of content that's absolutely free, and you can click that link down below. So let's get into our first story, which surrounds the F-15E Strike Eagle. Now, March 1st, obviously, we saw 3 F-15E Strike Eagles were shot down, not by Iran, but by Kuwaiti air defenses. Fortunately, all 6 crew members safely ejected, which is a true blessing and miracle that they're all in stable and good condition. So how did this happen? One blanket statement, fog of war. Kuwait flies a mixed fleet of F-18Cs, Ds, their older airframes, mechanically scanned radars, limited sensor fusion, as well as they fly newer F-18EF Super Hornets with AESA radars, much more advanced. We can kind of think the analogy of a Nokia cell phone versus the iPhone when it comes to those radars alone. Additionally, these Super Hornets, Link 16, which provides data link, you get a lot of information from who's in the airspace, what is happening. Again, a very valuable tool, as well as some modern electronic warfare capability and a host of other things. Basically, those Super Hornets have a much higher situational awareness when it comes to weaponry, the environment around them, and what is going on. Additionally, on the ground, they have Patriot missile batteries, Hawk missile batteries, and some AAA artillery there. On the night of March 1st, Iran is simultaneously throwing ballistic missiles, one-way attack drones, aircraft, all towards the Gulf states, all towards Kuwait, which had been hit. So just picture that air picture. Hundreds of inbound threats, dozens of coalition sorties going on at the same time, and you have a small Gulf Air Force running a mixed generation fleet, trying to do integrated air and missile defense. And oh, by the way, they have been struck and they've had casualties on the ground. So the stress level is going to be much higher than just a normal ops tempo, much higher than we've ever seen before. If we mix in what I'm assuming some elements of most of these Gulf states were not going to be participants in the beginning, and they essentially got drug into this overnight because they were attacked. You're going to have some confusion when it comes to communication, what the overall game plan is. And if we mix in those coalition sorties, you got hundreds of US and Israeli fighters moving eastbound and then westbound returning. There's potential that those fighters are low on gas. Maybe they have to divert. Maybe they have an emergency. So even though there is an air tasking order, the game plan changes when variables get injected. And even, I say, simple variables get injected when a fighter has an emergency or they're low on gas. This is not something that has never happened before, but when you start changing the plan and expectations and in the fog and chaos of war, especially this environment, I can quickly see how this thing unravels and you potentially have, again, a Legacy Hornet that has limited situational awareness. Maybe this was a Super Hornet, I don't know. But worst case scenario, you have a Legacy Hornet that is out there defending against drone swarms and ballistic missiles and potential Iranian fighters, and they don't have the complete picture. Now, they did shoot 3 F-15Es. I don't know the time span that transitioned. I imagine it was fairly quick. So if you are locking on with a Legacy radar, if I look at the radar that I used to fly in F-16 was an APG-68, it's now been replaced with AESA radars. being able to track and shoot 2 targets was I won't say impressive feat. It was the standard feat that was to be expected, but that's all you could do. AAS radar has different capabilities. So 3 jets were shot down by 1 F-18. We will see more details potentially come out about this. But nonetheless, I can see the fog and friction of war. There's a lot of chaos going on here. Next, General Kane and Secretary Hegseth gave a briefing yesterday talking about how this campaign is going to start shifting. And I will walk you through what I think his words mean and how we might see that play out. Now, General Kane said the combined effects of kinetic strikes, cyber and space operations has been swift, precise, and overwhelming, and has resulted in the establishment of local air superiority. Now, when he says local air superiority, what I think he is saying, and the reading the room here, is Iran's skies are not permanently safe. They still have the ability to threaten fighters. And specifically, he talked about the coastal southern flank being dominated. And we did a video a couple days ago where I made the assumption, seeing a drone flying around Shiraz, to me, what that spoke to was we have air superiority. You're not putting a drone orbiting at mid-altitude over a piece of sky that it could be threatened at because it's a fat, juicy target. Additionally, we saw B-1s doing deep strikes into Iran. We don't know those locations, but if you're putting B-1s into the airspace, you are not worried about Iranian fighters nor surface-to-air missile systems without being able to handle that with escort fighters such as the F-22 or F-16 Block 50 and 52s doing that suppression of enemy air defense mission set. As he talked about that southern coast, the Iranian SAM network basically has been rolled back. U.S. jets can now push deeper and they can transition from standoff weapons to more stand-in weapons. So now I'm thinking JDAMs, Joint Direct Attack Munitions, smart bombs using GPS or laser-guided or a combination of laser-guided and GPS weaponry, free-fall gravity bombs ranging from 250 pounds all the way up to 2,000 pounds is what I would expect to see here. But again, no longer that standoff. Cruise missiles are the primary source, now pushing deeper inside Iran, allowing fighters and bombers to drop those precision-guided munitions. So phase 1, we saw those standoff munitions. We saw the utilization of B-2s, F-35s, F-22s, as well as some mixture of 4th-generation assets to roll back those integrated air defense networks, the double-digit SAMs that we expected to see out there, early warning radars. Now kind of transitioning into phase 2 of this conflict, where you're going to see more 4th-generation assets flown into the mix using those stand-in munitions. So now what I would expect to see when you see these strike packages, when you see B-1s, when you see Strike Eagles going out there to strike deeper targets, you're going to have a SEAD complement, that suppression of enemy air defenses. You're going to have F-16 Wild Weasels that have the kinetic SEAD capability. They carry the AGM-88, the HARM, high-speed anti-radiation missile. That gives them the immediate ability to shoot at a Iranian surface-to-air missile system that maybe it was mobile and on the move, that wasn't struck because it was a fixed site and known. They're going to be moving these around for whatever is left and remaining. And that's why you need the real-time, quick response of an F-16 that has a HARM. The SEAD mission also incorporates elements from the F-22, the F-35, the E-18 Growler, and some additional assets that are out there, plus cyber and space. So it is multifaceted, but you can expect to see these strike packages comprised of multi-role fighters that all bring different tools to the fight. The challenging piece here, as I alluded to, was the mobile launchers, the TELs, the transport erector launchers. These are the things that are shooting the missiles. They are mobile. They have mobile ones. This is still a problem today. It's been a problem for quite some time. And most recently, we're hearing stories out of Operation Rough Rider where this was specifically an issue. And that's why you needed these F-16s with that real-time kinetic capability when it comes to SEAD. Doing a shoot and scoot mentality. So you can see them set up, shoot, and then they're going to disperse, making it tough to find them, making it tough to target them. But since this all began, we've seen Iran launch over 500 ballistic missiles, more than 2,000 drones. That's not a neutralized air force. That is a degraded adversary that is fighting. And they're going to continue to fight, and I think continue to the best of their ability, throw as much iron and hate into the skies as possible. And that lends us to even further escalation with both Turkey and Azerbaijan. Turkey's foreign minister has been warning that repeatedly this war is spreading across the region, and it appears ballistic missile was intercepted that might have been tracking towards Incirlik Air Base, which is a U.S. base in Turkey. Iran has denied this, but nonetheless, these are the facts. And then early this morning, seeing that Azerbaijan has been struck by a one-way attack drone. So start to connect those dots, you can understand why Turkey's starting to get nervous and why we're just seeing this spread. You know, Iran backed into a corner and they're going down swinging. It is an action that I did not foresee. Attacking all your neighbors, going after military bases absolutely makes sense, but it seems by attacking your neighbors was the strategy to hopefully put pressure on the United States to stop this. It seems like the opposite is happening. We've seen Qatar launch strikes inside Iran. You're dragging these Gulf partners against you into this conflict. Now, I think we can look at the fact that a decapitation strike has definitely been achieved. Anyone who was in leadership at the beginning is most likely not here anymore. Anyone that has thus been appointed has quickly been removed from the chessboard. So you have the IRGC operating in more or less an autonomous mode, executing whatever game plan was established prior to this happening. Remember, they've been preparing for this for decades. We've also seen Iran's naval capacity just completely decimated. So far, the battle damage assessment is 17 Iranian naval vessels have been destroyed or badly damaged. A big one, their Shahed drone carrier has been destroyed. Their Jamar-class corvette sunk, and a Shahed Soleimani-class catamaran corvette has also been hit and is burning. And then a submarine. CENTCOM has claimed that at least one Iranian submarine has been destroyed. And then in the Indian Ocean, we have an Iranian ship that has been torpedoed, meaning that this fight has expanded past the Gulf. And then, oh, by the way, this is the first U.S. use of a torpedo against a warship since World War II. So not insignificant here. Obviously, the strategic piece when it comes to the naval aspect, the Strait of Hormuz. And if we look at it, very narrow channel when, again, you have so much oil transiting through this narrow choke point every single day, it is problematic. So you have to eradicate their navy and their ability to threaten the Strait of Hormuz. The piece there that makes it challenging is these one-way attack drones and ballistic missiles. They have UAV boats, which again can threaten it. You can imagine if you're an insurance company required to insure the transit, and we saw President Trump saying, hey, insurance companies have to allow and provide affordable coverage for ships to transit this. I'm not sure how that all plays out. Again, if I'm an insurance company, I still have to write a check with the threat of a cheap $30,000 drone just hitting the golden BB and scoring a hit on a ship that is transiting that choke point is a very high risk. And one more thing before I wrap up here, I have seen social media videos. I've had some of them sent to me where we see Iranian troops, the Republican Guard, now utilizing schools, staging in schools. This is a tactic that has been utilized for quite some time, utilizing human shields, protected spaces, so that they can regroup, reform, and operate out of it. So here's where we are. Nearly 2,000 Iranian targets have been struck in the first 4 days. Air superiority has been established along the southern flank, expanding now into deeper strikes inside Iran. Iran's navy has been systematically dismantled, and on the edges, we have Turkey and Azerbaijan that appear to be getting drugged into this. China and Russia have pushed back diplomatically, and we have airline flights that are going to be suspended for quite some time. General Kane said this campaign would be swift, precise, and overwhelming. The swift part, I think we're in it right now. The precise part, so far, battle damage assessment supports a lot of it. And the overwhelming part, Iran has launched 500 ballistic missiles and 2,000 drones in response. They can only do that for so long. You have to imagine that their stockpiles are depleting. So let's stay locked in. If you have questions, drop those down below. Make sure you check out the newsletter if you like this type of content. We won't spam you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do so you don't miss any future updates. And I'll see you next time.